Have you ever really stopped and thought about what it takes for someone like Johnny Depp to still be standing today? I don't mean just standing in the physical sense. I mean standing as an artist, as a man, as someone whose life has been dragged through every possible storm. For decades, he has lived in the spotlight, a place most of us can't even imagine. And through the years, he has faced moments that could have crushed him completely. Many thought he wouldn't recover. But here, he is, still moving forward, still creating, still showing up for himself and for the people who believe in him. And in his own words, he's made one thing crystal clear: I'll fight to the end. Those words are powerful, aren't they? They sound simple, but when you hear them in the context of Johnny's life, they carry so much weight. He isn't just talking about winning in court or proving a point to the world. He's talking about resilience, about refusing to let his story be written by anyone else. And when you think about that, it changes the way you see him. Johnny's career has always been unusual. He never fit the mold of a standard Hollywood leading man. Back in the early days, he wasn't chasing safe romantic comedies or the polished blockbuster roles that guaranteed box office hits. He went after characters that were weird, edgy, and sometimes even off-putting. But those choices gave him something most actors never get: a reputation as an artist, not just a star. He became known as someone who could disappear into a role, who could make you forget you were even watching Johnny Depp. Then came the role that changed everything: Captain Jack Sparrow. Think about it. That character could have been silly, maybe even forgettable. But Johnny made him magnetic. He gave him a swagger, a strange mix of charm and mischief that nobody expected. The Pirates of the Caribbean franchise exploded, and suddenly Johnny wasn't just a respected actor anymore. He was a cultural icon. Kids dressed like Jack Sparrow for Halloween, adults quoted his lines, theme parks built rides around him. It was one of those rare moments where an actor and a role become inseparable. But here's the thing about reaching that kind of height: it puts a target on your back. Fame has a way of turning from blessing to curse. The higher you climb, the harder you fall when life inevitably turns against you, and Johnny's fall wasn't just personal, it was public. Court cases, accusations, endless speculation, every detail of his life was plastered across tabloids and screens. It wasn't just gossip, it was relentless. People debated his character, his past, his future, as if he were an idea and not a human being. Most people in that position would have walked away. They would have said, enough. They would have vanished, quietly retreating to some private island, refusing to step into the spotlight ever again. And honestly, nobody would have blamed him if he had chosen that. But Johnny didn't. He chose the opposite. He chose to fight. Not in a loud, aggressive way, but in a steady, determined way that said, I am not finished. This is not the end of me. Think about how hard that must have been. Every time he walked into a courtroom, cameras flashed, strangers whispered, commentators dissected his every move, but still, he showed up. He sat there, facing everything head-on. And outside the courtroom, he didn't vanish from his craft. He didn't hide. He leaned into music, touring with Hollywood vampires. He took on new projects. He let people see him smile, laugh, perform. It was as if he was telling the world, you can try to define me, but I will always find my way back to who I really am. Behind the scenes, friends describe him as quietly strong, not someone who shouts about his pain or his battles, but someone who carries them with a kind of stubborn dignity. Those words, I'll fight to the end, aren't just lines he says to inspire people. They are his reality. He lives by them. And if you really look at the pattern of his career, you see it everywhere. He's always fought to carve his own path, whether it was by rejecting the safe roles that Hollywood wanted to box him into, or by creating art that critics didn't always understand but fans adored. Even in his darkest times, that same spirit is there. The fight isn't about clinging to fame or money, it's about clinging to authenticity. It's about saying, this is who I am, and I won't let anyone take that away. What makes this so powerful is that he isn't doing it through big PR campaigns or carefully crafted image makeovers. He's doing it by showing up, by playing music, by acting, by directing again after so many years. He's letting the work speak for itself. He's letting his art carry the message, and fans are responding to that. You can see it when he walks onto a stage. People cheer, they cry, they hold signs that say things like, "We believe you," or "Thank you for fighting." For many, Johnny has become more than just an actor or musician. He's become a reminder that you can survive the storm, no matter how big it gets. That even when life tries to strip everything away, you can still choose to stand. It makes you think about resilience in your own life. We may not be in the public eye, but we all face battles, losses, heartbreaks, struggles that feel impossible. And when those moments come, it's tempting to give up, to think, this is too much. But then you see someone like Johnny, who had the entire world against him, and he didn't give in. He chose to keep moving forward. And it makes you ask yourself, if he can fight through that, what's stopping me from fighting through my own challenges? The story of Johnny's fight isn't finished yet. In fact, in so many ways it feels like it's only just beginning. That might sound strange when you think about how long he's already been around, how many films he's made, how many stages he's stood on, and how many decades of fame he's lived through. But that's the thing about Johnny. His story doesn't follow the neat, predictable timeline that most celebrities do. For most stars, you can almost draw a straight line. The rise, the peak, the decline. But Johnny's life has never moved in a straight line. It's been messy, full of twists, full of storms, and now as he steps into this new chapter, you can sense something different. His fire hasn't dimmed with age or with battles. If anything, it seems to burn even brighter now, because for the first time in a long time, he's no longer weighed down by the heavy pressure of trying to please everyone. That's the key difference. For years, Johnny lived under the microscope. Every choice he made, whether it was a film role, a relationship, or even something as simple as his appearance, was judged, dissected, and thrown back at him by a world that never seemed satisfied. When you're living like that, even when you're at the top of your career, there's always this invisible weight pressing down on you. The weight of expectations, the weight of fans who want you to stay the same, studios who want you to fit into their box, critics who want to tear you apart, and tabloids who are waiting for you to stumble. That kind of pressure would crush anyone eventually. And for Johnny, it nearly did. But here's what makes his comeback so powerful. Now, he isn't doing this for them anymore. He isn't making movies to chase box office numbers. He isn't touring with his band to impress critics. He isn't creating art to prove something to an industry that turned its back on him. He's doing it because he loves it, pure and simple. He's working because it makes him happy. He's stepping into projects because they feel authentic to him. He's picking up a guitar or a paintbrush or a script not because the world demands it, but because he wants to. And when you create from that place, when the work comes from joy instead of pressure, that's when the magic really happens. Think about it. Some of the greatest art in history has been born not from the need to meet expectations, but from the desire to express something deeply personal. When you're not trapped by what people think you should be, you're finally free to become who you really are. And that's what we're seeing with Johnny right now. He's free. Free from judgment, free from the endless tug-of-war of public opinion, free from the exhausting cycle of defending himself. For the first time in a long time, he looks like a man who has nothing left to prove. And isn't that the most powerful kind of comeback? Not the kind where you roar back into the spotlight, screaming that you're still relevant, but the kind where you simply live and create because it feels right. That quiet kind of strength is more inspiring than any flashy announcement or headline could ever be. The whispers of what's ahead make this even more exciting. New films are on the horizon, roles that aren't about recapturing past glory, but about exploring new territory. Projects where Johnny can pour himself into characters the way he used to, without worrying about whether they'll fit into a studio's safe formula. And then there are the tours, the music, the way he loses himself on stage with a guitar in hand. If you've ever seen him perform live, you know there's a certain light in his eyes when he's playing music that feels different from acting. Acting has always been his craft, but music is his release. It's raw, it's honest, and when he's on stage, you can almost feel that he's reminding himself of why he fights in the first place. Fans have picked up on this shift too. You can see it in the way they talk about him online, the way they show up at concerts, the way they cheer when he appears on screen. It isn't just about idolizing a celebrity anymore, it's about witnessing. Someone who's been through hell and come out the other side, stronger, softer, and more authentic. People love a good comeback story, but this one feels different because it's not built on spectacle. It's built on survival, on choosing joy after pain, and maybe that's why it resonates so deeply with people all around the world. Because let's be honest, we all know what it feels like to carry expectations, to feel like you're constantly trying to please others, to live under pressure that never seems to let up. Most of us know what it's like to put ourselves second, to chase approval instead of happiness. And when you watch someone like Johnny finally put all of that down and say, "I'm doing this because it makes me happy," it hits home. It makes you think about your own life, your own choices, and maybe even inspires you to start creating, living, or simply existing for yourself again. Johnny's story now isn't just about survival, it's about rebirth. He's not clawing his way back to where he was before. He's building something new, something better, something that's completely his own. That's what makes this moment so important. For years, people told his story for him. The media wrote headlines, the courts wrote narratives, strangers on the internet wrote judgments. But now, he's the one writing it again. With every note he plays, every scene he films, every piece of art he creates. And think about the timing of it all. At this stage of his life, most actors might start slowing down, taking fewer risks, protecting their legacy. But Johnny isn't interested in slowing down. He's interested in fighting. Not fighting in anger, but fighting with passion. Fighting with joy. Fighting with the determination to keep creating until his very last breath. That's why when he says, "I'll fight to the end," it doesn't sound like a threat or a dramatic performance. It sounds like a promise to himself, to his fans, to his art. And when you hear it in that way, it feels bigger than just a celebrity quote. It feels like a universal truth. Because isn't that what we all want? To reach a place in our lives where we're not doing things to impress others, but because they make us feel alive? To wake up and know that what we're giving to the world is born out of love, not fear. That's what Johnny's comeback is teaching us. That joy, authenticity, and resilience are stronger than scandal, stronger than gossip, stronger than the darkest chapters of our lives. And maybe that's why people are saying this is his most authentic era yet. Not because of fame, not because of fortune, but because for the first time, he's simply being himself. And maybe that's the real lesson for all of us. The comeback isn't about going back to the person you were before everything fell apart. The comeback is about becoming someone new, someone freer, someone who finally lives without the crushing weight of other people's opinions. That's what Johnny Depp is doing right now, and that's why his story isn't finished. It's only just beginning. But here's something to really think about. When Johnny says, "I'll fight to the end," what do those words mean to you personally? Do you hear them as an actor talking about his career, or do you hear them as a man talking about life itself? For me, it feels universal. It's about not giving up on yourself when the world tries to tell you you're finished. It's about remembering that strength isn't always loud. Sometimes strength is just the quiet decision to get up one more time, to try again, to refuse to let the story end before you're ready. Johnny's journey is a reminder of something so simple, yet so easy to forget. Our lives aren't defined by mistakes or by the rumors people spread or by the things that go wrong when we least expect them. They're defined by what we do next. They're shaped by the way we choose to respond when everything seems to fall apart. That's the real turning point in any story, not the setback itself, but the choice you make afterwards. And maybe that's why Johnny's words resonate so deeply with so many people. Because deep down, we all want to believe that we have that same fight inside us. Think about it. Everyone stumbles. Everyone has moments they wish they could take back, words they wish they hadn't said, mistakes they wish they hadn't made. And almost all of us at some point have been judged for them. Sometimes the judgment is quiet, whispered behind our backs, and sometimes it's loud, the way Johnny faced it under the harsh lights of tabloids and courtrooms. But the truth is, those moments, no matter how painful, aren't the full story. They're just chapters. What defines you is how you move forward once the chapter ends. Johnny could have let the darkest chapters of his life consume him. He could have disappeared from the world, hiding in regret, letting his past speak louder than his present. But he didn't. He stood up, faced the world, and reminded everyone that one mistake, one storm, one period of struggle doesn't erase a lifetime of passion, talent, and heart. That choice to keep going is what transforms his story from tragedy to resilience, and that's the part we connect to as people watching from the outside. Because when we hear him say, "I'll fight to the end," it's not just about him surviving fame or lawsuits or gossip. It's about the fight that lives in all of us. The fight to keep moving even when we feel like we've lost everything. The fight to stand up one more time, no matter how many times we've been knocked down. The fight to write our own story instead of letting others write it for us. That's why his words matter. They echo back to something inside each of us. The part that hopes, no matter how hard life gets, that we'll have the courage to keep going. Because if Johnny can face the world after everything he's been through and still say, "I'll fight to the end," then maybe, just maybe, we can too. And if there's one thing to take away from his story, it's this. No matter how loud the noise gets, no matter how heavy the judgment feels, no matter how far you fall, you can always stand up again. You can always choose to keep fighting. So when you think about Johnny Depp's journey, his highs, his lows, his resilience, what stands out most to you? Do you see him as a man rebuilding, as an artist reclaiming his voice, or as a symbol of something bigger? Whatever your answer, one thing is certain. His fight isn't over. And maybe, just maybe, it's only just begun. And as fans, as people watching his journey unfold, we get to see what comes next. The music, the films, the art, it's all a part of that fight. A fight not just for his career, but for his truth. So, the next time you hear Johnny Depp say, "I'll fight to the end," remember this. He isn't just talking about Hollywood, he's talking about life itself. And in those words, we can all find a little bit of strength for our own battles. 2.